to Austin, who asked the question, are personal websites a necessity for branding and what should be in them? My response to you is the third question, the third piece. It's, reasons for personal branding and why it's important. And I say it's not just personal branding. Once you've mastered the personal branding, you then are able to extend the brand to who you are. If you think about Henry Ford, he embodied the message of Ford. And Ford then became the industry and the enterprise that represented the thoughts, the vision, the intention of the man. Same thing with Walt Disney. So no matter it's Friday night, or all the way to how do I grow this from a local mom and pop shop to expanding it to different regional territories? Do I license? Do I go global? All of those things are very consistent with the same principles along the continuum of building a brand. And to the question about personal websites, I'll get back to that. I think that they are important as long as the message is clarified. And one of the keys that I will say, and use this as an illustration, it's not just about competition. It's not just about clutter. It's also about community. And what's happened in grad school, I went to grad school at Northwestern, and one of the books that I loved was called Markets or Conversations. And it was before social media really became social media. And yes, it is important to have a personal website, but I don't think the website has to be at your URL. Your site is the destination, whether that's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, anywhere people can connect with you and your message. But the key is making sure that your message is consistent across all of those mediums, because there's so many touch points that people can meet you, greet you, connect with you, and everyone isn't always going to come to your house. They may come over to your friend's house. They may come to the pub down the street. They're all connecting with you in all these different places, and it's up to you to make sure your message is consistent. So the DNA needs to be the same no matter where you go. One question that came up is, what are the top social media sites? What I believe one of the top social media sites for branding is my website. Shameless plug, but no, I do. It's brandmelive.com. We created brandmelive.com as a sister company to Velvet Suite. Velvet Suite, we are the premier branding firm. Think of it as the Bentley of branding, the Maserati of marketing if you love cars. It's all about hands-on consultation, brand management for companies, and helping their people develop, as well as strategies for growth and expanding in terms of the business and the brand and the territory that you want to grow in. BrandMeLive.com is a great site, I believe, to help people every day develop and define their own brand, getting information, connecting with others. I think other sites, of course, Facebook is, to me, a great branded site. Any site that's going to give you the tools and the resources to create your own mark. And at the end of the day, that's what each one of us has to do, is we've got to define our message. We have to clarify the tools that we're going to use. And everything is speaking about your brand. Everything from your voicemail that you're leaving on your personal and professional line, the things that you say that maybe help you brand you. For one of the things that we always say in my company, and it's a part of my language and lingo, is brandtastic. So finding what is that word for you, that's a phrase that can be consistent. The look, the color. Also, the choices of words that you use in terms of taglines. All of those things are pretty important. Misha says, do you use YouTube for advertisements? What should be in them? Do you use YouTube for advertisements? Okay, I think what you're asking is, can you create viral videos? And to me, one of the most important tools in your toolkit for personal branding should be a flip camera. And they have not paid me for saying that, but because one of the biggest trends right now in social media is viral video. So finding ways to create commercials, messages in very short, not 5-10 minutes. The average video is 2 to 3 minutes max, where you can give your message. 1, 2. You want to punch them with your message. You want it to be clear, compelling, and totally something that they would pass on. So sometimes that's done through humor. Sometimes it's done through some of the most wild and crazy things. Sometimes it's done from shock and awe. Sometimes it's done with information, hard-hitting information. Whatever your angle is, it needs to be consistent with your message. And yes, using it at YouTube can be a key driver of advertisements. I was on a radio show recently with one of the gentlemen that was part of that whole grab your kids, grab your mama video craze that had like millions of people view it on YouTube. And clearly, from my conversations with him, he used that as a platform to advertise his brand Whether it was good or bad or indifferent, it's up to each one of us to decide. But the key here is this: you want to make sure that you're in control of your message. And in a reality TV driven world, people always want to jump on the bandwagon of exposure. But I think it's just as important to make sure that you're not overextending or exposing your brand, and that you're controlling the message to the extent that you can. What would you say to people who think personal branding is not necessary for their business? Great question. Here's my perspective on branding in general, personal, business, whatever. You are always making a mark. You're making a statement even when you're not saying a word. 80% of your communication is nonverbal. So the question to me is, do you want to be relevant or not? Because at the end of the day, people are going to recall you for something. And if they don't recall you at all, that's not a good place to be in either, because that means you were insignificant. And not that you're insignificant, but you never made an impression. So I believe that personal branding is an essential for every business, for every person right now, because what it does at the very core of personal branding, it eliminates the need to make a choice. So when I go to a store and I'm looking across the aisle, if I know a brand and I'm familiar with it, I'm going to get that particular brand. When I was at P&G, we called it the first moment of truth. So no matter who you say you are, if people's perception is different than the message that you're delivering, there's an inconsistency in the brand, whether that's a business or whether that's you personally. So it's important at all levels, I think, to have your brand and to recognize that it is a necessity. And your business will grow from that. Jeff, can individual branding conflict with organizations the person is a part of? Very good question. We do a lot of training with corporations, Fortune 500 companies, smaller companies, and developing brand leadership from the inside out. That's our tagline: brilliant branding from the inside out. And that branding is the inside, is the people. The people make the business, and ultimately the employees are the ambassadors, so to speak, for the brand. And I believe that there can be conflicts, and ultimately at the core of a brand and its identity are its core values. So each one of us have core values, things that we value, but also core values and attributes that make us who we are. They're the intangible invisibles. And if for any reason you're in an organization where your core values conflict, that can be a challenge, and it may not be a good fit for you. And in these times, I think it's amazing. These are times of reinvention. People have the option. You have the option to choose where you will find your best fit. Now, within the organization, the culture, what's expected, performance metrics, all of those things are a part of the culture of the environment. But I believe that you can make your mark within it. Let's use an example. Say that you're in a company that tends to be a little bit more conservative, and your personality is very flamboyant, you're outspoken, you like to dress with a flair, and that is putting a cramp in your style. And many of us have that. Well, I often coach executives or individuals in that situation that, if it's something you can deal with and it doesn't conflict the core values, then find ways to adapt to the culture, but add a spin, add your own signature style to it, whether that's in meetings. Maybe you have a fiery personality. Well, do it in a way that creates humor and creates interest and intrigue in you when you come to a meeting, versus people being intimidated, afraid, and feeling like their voice isn't heard. It's all about style. It's a nuance. It's about just defining how you're going to navigate your particular space and navigate these times. It's so critical. But I do believe that there can be conflicts, but I think that if the conflict is not from the core of your values, those conflicts can be mitigated. But the ultimate goal is you've got to be fulfilled. And I talk about turning passion into profit. In order for you to be profitable, you want to make sure that you are finding your fit, your niche, and you're ultimately feeling fulfilled in what you're doing. Any other questions? These are good questions, really good questions. I think the whole conflicting thing is interesting because many times I've learned that people feel conflicted. A lot of times, they say that when you go to work on Mondays is the day that most people have heart attacks. Why? Because they're stressed, conflicted about their jobs. And so I think it's a great question. And I'm all about getting to the life and the fun and the excitement of what you do, because that's where you're going to thrive. When you get to purpose, it's like you're unstoppable, you're untouchable. What are some ways that branding will change over the next 10 years? Oh, Stan, I love that question because really I believe that I'm a thought leader in the industry, and so branding is a conversation that's continuing to happen. I believe we're oversaturated even in the branding conversation. But where I think it's going to begin to change is going to be moving to what I call authentic brand leadership, which is not a desire to have the greatest package, but to have the boldness to stand in clarity of the authenticity of the company, what it stands for, the authenticity of the person, and then being able to really connect that authenticity to community and to causes and to things that matter to people beyond the superficial. I think that selling for the sake of selling is not going to work anymore. Traditional marketing is not worked anymore because people know that when they're being sold. So if I'm trying to sell you on someone that I'm not, we are smart enough. We've got enough content. We've got enough options through the internet to read and to see through the smoke and mirrors. And people want to know truth. They want to know someone who is standing for something significant and substantive. And it's not to lose the fun or the excitement or the energy, but it is to really begin to help people see the power of creating change through making your mark. Think about the people in the course of history. And if you want to know the power of a brand, it's got to live beyond its lifetime. And those people who've lived beyond their lifetime with their mark had to stand for something substantial, and they did it often in the face of opposition, and they did it with a voice and an intention of authenticity in the face of people who wanted them to change and do it differently. Why did you create Women in the Spotlight is the question, and what will the hopes of attendees will be gaining from it? Well, if those of you who do not know, we are having an event. This is March. For those of you who don't know, of course, we all know it's March 2nd, but it's the month of women's history and Women's History Month. And our company, Velvet Sweet Marketing, is hosting a phenomenal retreat. For those of you who are ladies and gentlemen, you can come for certain parts of the retreat. It's called Women in the Spotlight, and it will be happening on March 17th, 18th, and 19th at the W Hotel in Buckhead. The purpose of this event is phenomenal. It is to take women in leadership through our 5 steps of personal brand leadership. It is proven. We've worked with corporations, key executives, celebrities like Carmelo Anthony, the National Football League has been our client, key people who are champions, and we created a system that helps individuals take the lead. And so if you're in a position of reinvention, if you're really trying to launch a business, if you're trying to get to the next level, if you want to get networked to people who are going to help take you to the next level, we have over 35 women of influence coming from the Gates Foundation, Senior Director of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, producers at CNN, the Vice President of the National Basketball Association, just an outstanding array of women, an extraordinary league of women. So it's Women in the Spotlight now, and if you'd like to learn more, you can go there. Also, if you are a gentleman and you'd like to participate, we have an honorary dinner on Saturday evening, as well as a VIP welcome reception, which will be a great networking opportunity for everyone who's really looking to take their business, their brand to the next level, and that's going to be on March 17th, Thursday from 7 to 9 at the W in Buckhead in Atlanta. So thanks for asking that question. Jeff, what are some common branding mistakes? Ooh. That's a great question. I think a few of them that come top of mind. Number one, not really standing for something. You know, the adage says if you stand for something or fall for anything. Not clarifying your position, your position statement. And in my book, Brand Me, I talk about the position statement as who am I, what do I do, and what's my unique value. My unique value is what is my value to others, people, what is in it for them. So let me give you an example of that. My position statement is this: I'm Melissa Dawn Johnson. I'm a global branding and personal transformation leader who is passionate about helping you discover purpose and how to transform that purpose into a profitable lifestyle. That's what I do, and that's what's in it for you is the most important thing because you get that back. So having that message clarified very simply on a business card, having way too much information, not using a professional email address, using anything from, the game, you've seen it on the cards. Some other mistakes are not really being able to replicate as you grow a business. Many of you may be small business owners and you're expanding. Your brand has to live not just in you. Once you've clarified your message and who you are, it has to live in other people, those others who represent your company. So how are you going to translate your brand values, your attributes, your style, your image, your packaging to other people who don't have that same passion, don't have that same vision, are there just for a job? That is the next level of branding, is replicating your business, your brand proposition. I was talking to another branding expert and thought leader today, and he does a lot of work with Microsoft. And Microsoft is really into branding within their company for that reason, because they realize that the Microsoft brand can't just be about Bill Gates' vision. It has to be about everyone living, breathing, speaking the same language consistently over time. Another, I would say, Jeff, third major miss in branding is consistency. We were in a very what's the word? Our attention span is very short, so we're constantly moving from one thing to the next. But the key to building a profitable brand and a key to building a product that sells and that people can rely on, and ultimately the reward of a brand is trust, is consistency. And that method has to continue to grow and go, or else people will just lose interest and they won't believe you. You'll lose a lot of credibility. So I think that's another key point. So I don't know if there's any other questions, but it's been great being with you guys. Thank you so much.